Hi there! This is In the Kitchen with Dinah. Welcome back. I'm so glad that you're watching my videos. Hey, today I'm going to show you how to make chocolate zucchini cake because we all got them growing in our gardens.
Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen, I know. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Gonna taste good, I know.
All right, so you probably have your garden or your neighbor's garden and they grow enough zucchini to feed the whole neighborhood and they get to this big or bigger or smaller. I'm going to show you one of the great ways, one of my favorite ways to eat it, and that's chocolate cake. So I have one that I used the other night. We had fried zucchini, and these have a little bigger seed in them, so I'm going to scrape a little bit of that out. It's not pleasant to eat a cake with some zucchini seeds in it for sure. So I just take a spoon, scrape some of them out, and then we're going to grate it. This is a great way to involve your kids if they haven't started cooking yet or they want to help. All right, so we've got it pretty cleaned out. I'm just going to leave that like that. I need a knife. Hang on one sec. I'm going to break this up. I have a handy dandy salad shooter. If you don't have one, one of the, I call them the knuckle cruncher box graters will work. This is really great, not sponsored by the way. Shredding cheese and doing all sorts of kitchen tasks. So this is a little noisy, but this is the best way to grate it. And we're going to need 2 cups. Boy, we are right on the money. So that was half of a gigantic, large garden zucchini. All right, so set that to the side. Grab a big mixing bowl. You don't really need, you can mix this by hand if you need. I do like using my, my mixer. All right, so we are going to add to the bowl. I've got 2 eggs here. We're going to measure out 1/2 cup of oil. And 1 3/4 cup of sugar. All right, so now we've got these basic ingredients. We're going to mix this together and get it mixed well before we add more. Just want to get the eggs beaten and your sugar kind of mixed in. So we're going to add some more stuff to it. All right, so now we're going to add 1/2 cup of melted butter. And the next thing we're going to make is some soured milk. So I started off with just 1/2 cup of milk, and we're going to use about 1 tablespoon of vinegar, and I'm just going to pour this in, and it'll sit and curdle the milk, and then it'll be sour milk. So that's going to sit there for a second, and we're going to measure in some cocoa. I buy my cocoa in bulk and then just keep it in quart jars here. So we need 4 tablespoons of cocoa. This is such a great snack cake. Take to the lake with you in the summer and share it with your friends or your neighbors. Okay, so there's 4 tablespoons of cocoa. We're going to grab the flour before we add the milk because I want that to sit for just a second. So let's go grab some flour. I know I eyeballed this. All right, we got the flour in here, and I'm going to continue to put in all the rest of the dry ingredients, then we'll add more moisture to that as we go along. So now we need 1 teaspoon of soda. 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And I totally eyeball this. All right, so some of the secret ingredients in this cake are cloves and cinnamon. So we've got a half a teaspoon of cinnamon and a half a teaspoon of cloves. All right. All right, and then we do need a splash of vanilla. I'm just going to add this to the milk. All right, so we're going to stir up the wet and the dry ingredients. And as soon as it gets about there, I stop. I'm going to add the milk, and you can totally see, if you, cameraman, if you want to come in, you can see how it's kind of sludgy. It's totally curdled, and that's just exactly what you want. That helps the leavening of the cake, and it's going to react with the soda to make the cake rise. All right, so we got the sour milk in there. Now we're going to add our 2 cups of zucchini. I don't know where I ever got this recipe. My mom always made it growing up, and I always loved it with the cinnamon and the clove kick. It was such an interesting flavor profile to me. And I think when I brought it to my family I married into, they thought I was crazy, but then they've grown to love it as well. All right, so I've got it pretty well mixed. I'm going to do the rest by hand. This is kind of chocolate cake with green flecks in it. It's probably a good way to hide vegetables for your kids if they don't really like them. It just makes for a really delicious, moist cake. So I'm just making sure that all my ingredients got mixed together. Sometimes they like to hide out on the bottom. You don't want streaks of lost ingredients not mixed in. All right, so that looks great. So I got a 9x13 pan. I'm going to spray that. I've had my oven preheated when I started to 350. Pour this in. I suppose you could make cupcakes with this too. I never have. All right, so and it's a thicker batter. Spread it out nice and even. Your cake pan. I have not tried this with gluten-free flour. I'm sure it would work just fine. All right, let me wash my finger off quick. Probably hear our puppy walking around. When Mom's in the kitchen, he thinks I'm gonna drop something. It's quite the cleanup crew. All right, on the top, I'm gonna sprinkle, well, it says a half cup in the recipe. I don't think I've ever followed that. I just sprinkle chocolate chips all over the top. I have seen these frosted, but I kind of like just the chocolate chips sprinkled on top. This would be a great job for your kids if you wanted to have them help you make this. All right, I'd say that's good. All right, so we're gonna bake this for 40 minutes at 350, and we'll be back. All right, let's check the cake. The timer went off. And while this one was baking, I threw a gluten-free one in the top, so we're gonna test that one out too. So I'm just gonna poke it with a toothpick. If it comes out clean, it's good to go. All right, so this is the finished cake. You just need to let it cool, and then you're good to go to eat it. All right, so when this cake was cooking, I tried a gluten-free, egg-free version. We're having a big family get-together tomorrow. We've got a lot of gluten-free people, and then a couple that are actually allergic to eggs. So I tried one. I just used the Trader Joe's gluten-free flour, replaced it exactly cup for cup. And then for my egg replacement, I used flax meal, and I think I used 2.5 teaspoons of the ground flax meal to 3 tablespoons of warm water, and you kind of per 1 egg. And I stirred it up and let it become like a thick slurry, and then just poured it in. And we'll see how that turns out in just a minute. All right, so let's check on this gluten-free one I popped in. Since everything was a mess, I thought I'd just keep on with it. So this is trial and error here. Well, it's clean. It looks good. It looks pretty much the same. All right, and here is the gluten-free one. A little bit different, but I think it'll be great. So follow those steps. I think we're gonna taste this with the family tomorrow, and we'll let you know how it tastes. You guys have a terrific day, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Gonna taste good, I know.